Last night, at exactly 2:13 a.m., I got a text from my dog's smart collar, a feature meant to monitor his vitals. But the message didn't mention his heart rate. It just said one word: run. I stared at the glowing screen, the wind suddenly howling outside like it had read the message too, and then I heard my dog growling. But he was staring at me. It was just after 2 a.m. when my phone buzzed on the nightstand. At first, I thought it was some low battery notification or a system update. But when I turned the screen over and read the text, my body locked up. It was a message from Max's smart collar, something that should have only reported location pings or health vitals. But this one just said, run. No heartbeat report. No GPS coordinates. Just a single word, cold, mechanical, and terrifying. For a second, I just stared at it, thinking it had to be a glitch. Then I heard a low, guttural growl. Max. He was standing at the foot of my bed, fur bristling, lips curled back. I'd never seen him like that, not even when we once ran into a bear while hiking. His eyes weren't on the door, where you'd expect a threat to come from. He wasn't looking at the windows either. Max was staring straight at the ceiling. My heart started pounding. The attic. There was only one room above this cabin, and it hadn't been touched in years. Not since the day I moved in. The previous owner said the hatch was jammed shut and not to bother. And I hadn't until now. Max let out a single bark, then whimpered, not out of pain but fear. I'd never heard that sound from him before. He backed toward the wall, as if distancing himself from me, or maybe from something else. Then the temperature dropped, subtly at first. Then all at once, the hair on my arm stood up, and I swear the walls themselves exhaled. I looked back at the screen. Run. No punctuation. No sender name. Just a command. I reached out to pet Max, to reassure him, but he flinched and whined like I was the danger. That shook me more than the message. My protector, my best friend, was scared of me or whatever was now above us. Then came the creak. From the attic, floorboards straining under something heavy, something slow, something alive. I didn't move. I just stared at the ceiling, heart pounding in my ears, and realized something unthinkable. Max knew before I did. And whatever it was already awake. I had never actually opened the attic since I moved in. The real estate agent said it was sealed shut and full of old insulation. The hatch was nailed over crudely, with rusted bolts and warped wood. I never questioned it, until Max started growling toward it, until that message told me to run. I stared at the ceiling above my bed, the creaking continuing in slow, deliberate rhythms. It wasn't a raccoon or squirrel. No animal moved like that. I grabbed the flashlight from my nightstand and crept into the hallway. Max trailing behind me with reluctant steps, ears pinned back. The attic hatch was just above the linen closet, a thin square panel with a rope hanging from it. I'd passed under it 100 times. But now, it felt like the center of all evil in the world. The pull rope swayed ever so slightly. When I tugged on it, the hatch didn't fall easily. It gave a painful groan, like it hadn't been touched in years, which it hadn't. But then, with one final tug, it dropped open. Dust rained down, and with it, a smell, mold, rot, but something worse, like old metal and spoiled meat. I shined my flashlight up and saw nothing but dust floating through the beam. Carefully, slowly, I pulled down the old wooden ladder and began to climb. Max barked once, sharp and panicked, as if to stop me. I hesitated but continued upward. The air changed as soon as my head passed into the attic. Thick, heavy, silent. There were no cobwebs, no boxes, no insulation. Only a small, bare space. And in the corner, something stood. It was tall, wrong, faceless, like a silhouette cut out of reality itself. It didn't move, didn't breathe, but I could feel its attention like heat against my skin. Then I saw the scratch marks on the floor. Long, deep gouges running from the corner to the hatch. Something had tried to come down. I stepped back, flashlight trembling, and the figure tilted its head, a subtle motion, but one that made my blood freeze. I wasn't alone. I never had been. The attic was never empty. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I simply backed down the ladder, rung by rung, never taking my eyes off the figure in the attic. It didn't follow, not yet. But the moment my feet hit the floor, Max lunged at me. Not to attack, to push me back. Then he turned, faced the attic, and started growling with a sound I'd never heard from before. Not fear, but rage. That's when it moved. A loud, unnatural shifting of limbs and weight. Something dragged itself toward the hatch, slow and smooth, like it had all the time in the world. "Max, let's go," I shouted, grabbing the collar of his neck. But he didn't budge. His body was stiff. He was shaking, but he was standing guard. The growling turned into a snarl as the attic's rope ladder creaked behind us. The thing was coming down. I yanked Max harder, and this time he ran with me. We barreled down the stairs and out the back door into the cold night. I didn't even grab my shoes. Just my phone and Max. The trees bent in the wind like they were leaning away from the house. I didn't stop running until we were back in my truck, parked a mile down the road at the trailhead. I drove to the nearest town, straight to a late-night vet clinic. I had one goal: check Max's collar. The tech on duty looked at me like I was crazy, but when he examined the collar's chip history, his face went pale. "This isn't standard," he muttered. "This collar has a biometric trigger system designed to detect specific stress hormones, fear chemicals, military-grade stuff, and it's got a pre-programmed text function." He clicked into the log and turned the screen toward me. Trigger phrase, run. Condition, cortisol plus heart rate spike plus ambient infrasound detected. Last activation, 2:13 a.m. Infrasound. My cabin had been silent, but maybe not to Max. "Who programmed this?" I asked. He didn't answer, just stared at the log. There was a final detail below the trigger phrase, linked to attic proximity sensor. That's when I knew the collar didn't malfunction. It was warning me, because whatever's in that attic has been there longer than me, and it was waiting.